In Marvel Snap, it's all about power. Who's going to have the most power between two locations is going to win the game. Now, there are cards with immense levels of power that are typically associated with a high cost or condition behind playing them. Take Infinite, for example. You guys know he has a colossal amount of 20 base power. It's the most in Marvel Snap, with the major con of not being able to play a card the turn before. You've got cards like the Hulk that have no abilities, really no strategy, just a 12 power. But then you've got the other kind of powerful cards, the ones with the double-edged sword. Cards like Red Skull, Typhoid Mary, and the Destroyer all come with enormous location-winning power, but they've got the steep payment of their own ability, severely working against you and your other cards. Enter Zero, the 1-cost 3-power mutant with the special ability in Snap to silence and wash away a card's negative effect. By combining Zero and the double-edged sword, we get the pleasure of playing a new archetype known as
Nuke Zero.
So in today's video and deck guide, I'm going to walk you through the strategy cards and decks to master this unique archetype in Snap. And honestly, right now it could not be a better time to play this deck. It completely stomps the current meta. Leech and Leader, it counters just absolutely perfectly. And with the arrival of Pool 4 and 5 and new cards on the way, it just keeps leveling up the more you play it and the more you get used to its playstyle. Now, I will say there's a con, that there's a lot of Pool 3 cards in this deck, but if you have the cards, guys, it's going to be an easy and fun climb to infinite. Now, as always, we start out with the MVPs of the deck, the cards that are the most important to the foundation of the archetype. It's really important to understand how these cards work and where to use them in certain situations. We're going to start off with the card Zero, our main MVP, and the core card in which the deck is based around. Compared to the other 1-cost cards, Zero is one of the strongest as far as pure power goes. Now, we usually want to hold on to Zero past turn 1. There's much better options to play him in the later turns. And with this deck, it's so power-filled with these giant nuke cards that you don't really need to play the early trickle of low-power plays. And we don't have to have initiative as well because the deck's going to work either way. Now, as far as the cards that you want to combine him with, you can play him really on any turn, but again, the later, the better. Now, the one exception to this is on turn 1. If you happen to have Ebony Maw, you can go ahead and play Zero, followed by Maw on turn 2 for a huge 10-power swing early in the game. You can also play him with Lizard if the situation calls for it. On turn 2, playing Zero will net you a Maximus on turn 3 for a massive advantage of a 3/7 card. Now, a turn 3-0 will lead to a turn 4 Typhoid Mary. Turn 4-0 will be a Red Skull, and then the last two is a turn 5-0, leading to the huge turn 6 Destroyer. Or if you don't have any other options, you can always play him followed by Red Skull or the other options on turn 6 and really take your opponents by surprise. And that's the best part about Zero. He can be played truly on any turn. You have to just see what your enemy is playing and the locations you're handed. Continuing to our next MVP, we've got Enchantress. She is going to serve as our backup plan, serving as both a tech card and support to shut down the giant negative effects that come with our nukes. Now, sure, you can use her as you always do, just shutting down ongoing abilities. But the perfect play with her is if you can identify very early what kind of deck your opponent is playing. You can test the lane that they're trying to win with your own cards, lay down a Typhoid Mary, whatever it may be, and then slap her down. 2 birds with 1 stone. You're going to knock out whatever they're trying to build up, and at the same time, you're powering your own side. And lastly, we've got Taskmaster as our last MVP. What a card. Man, this guy is so situational, but he is situationally perfect for this deck. Now, he does a lot of different roles, but mainly he's going to be copying these mass amount of powers that we're going to be playing with the cards like Red Skull and like Typhoid Mary, but he doesn't have any of the cons that those cards come with, and oftentimes, most of the time, you'll be playing him on turn 6. Taskmaster can truly hold down a location by itself. It's a great win condition in its own right, and the best part is, guys, Leader is not going to counter him. If they play a Leader and you play Taskmaster, it's simply going to copy the last card that they played, which is usually not a huge power option like you have. And that's one of the best things about this deck, because right now, Leader is super strong, very annoying, he's everywhere, and Taskmaster doesn't give a damn. In combination with cards that we'll talk about later, if you play him after Venom, you can expect a huge burst of power as well. He's a perfect card to combine with most of the high power late round options in this deck. All right, now that we've got those main core cards understood and talked about, let's talk essential zero targets. They come in a variety of different costs with loads of power. These are the cards that you want to target with your Zero, or you want to follow up that Taskmaster after you play them. Again, starting with Ebony Maw, you're going to have that ridiculous opening with him at the very beginning of the game. That's absolutely crazy. A newer card that we have as well is Titania. Now, it's not as great as Ebony Maw, but it's never a bad option to have a 1-cost 5-power play. Lizard is also perfect. He's one of the best 2 costs in the game and will now come with really no drawback. Best of all, Lizard is fantastic without Zero if you don't pull him, which makes him an easy favorite in this deck. If you do want to try to get initiative, it's hard to combat Lizard's early power. You've got Maximus, who's been rising in popularity. Again, it's going to create another turn 2 into turn 3, 10-point power swing for all of that value and none of the risk of giving your opponent 2 additional cards. Oftentimes, you need to be methodical where you place these cards we just talked about. These are the opening turns, and you want to set up a lane that you plan on winning, and then we're going to use these other cards to finish the job off. Next up is our 4-cost option in Typhoid Mary. Typhoid's going to get a lot better with an additional new card in the game in Luke Cage, which we'll talk about in a second. But Typhoid's not as bad as you would think in this deck, mainly because you're not going to have loads of cards typically when you win the game or win the match. It's going to rely on just a couple high power options. And then best of all, we're going to talk about him as well, but Venom eating Typhoid Mary completely gets rid of those abilities and you just get all of that power behind her. Typically, if you see a location like Nexus or another location like Asgard, Typhoid is the perfect card to play. We've got 2 5-cost options in both Red Skull and Doc Ock. Now, Red Skull is a fan favorite. He's going to give +2 power to all of the cards on the opponent's side. And so you can kind of work around this, right? If you play Red Skull in a location that they don't have a lot of cards laid into, it's not a big con, and you don't have to worry about zeroing him out. And at the same time, when you combine him with some of the other options we'll talk about today, his power is truly, absolutely insane. There's a lot of ways to negate this, and he's one of the true core win conditions of the deck. You're going to have to really get used to playing him in the way that he works, but man, I think Red Skull's pretty underrated. Now, for those of you that do have Doc Ock, he's a really fun card to play for multiple reasons. Now, number one, you can play him into Cosmo lanes, which is obviously fantastic. If the opponent laid down Cosmo, you get a free 5/10 card. And if not, you have a lot of ways to use Doc Ock as a tech card. Now, you can look for value if your opponent has already played 3 cards, maybe. You could play him on that location and pull 1 extra one for them. But at the same time, if they're playing like a discard deck, or they're playing a deck where they need to methodically play cards in a certain order, Doc Ock's going to screw that and just completely rip apart that plan. And then you can just Arnim Zola him out of that lane, or maybe have a Shang-Chi Enchantress tech card to combat whatever you pulled. Doc Ock is truly special and just extremely toxic in this game if you play and learn him the right way. We also have the Destroyer. Now, this is a card that I don't run in my top tier Zero deck, but you can certainly run him if you pull him early. And he's definitely a great card to play in last-minute situations. Now, you're going to have to adjust your deck a little bit. You might as well throw in armor in the deck, and you can maybe shift over strategies midway through playing. But if you can land a turn 5-0 and play him on turn 6, he's fantastic for a lot of power in one lane, and definitely worth using if you do have the card. Now, Sentry is a new card in the game, and he's about to make his appearance, and I think he's going to fit perfectly into Zero decks. Now, he does have the con of pulling a -8 Void in the right lane, but luckily you could just cancel this out, and you just get a huge value for a 4-cost card. Again, right now in the current meta, most of the cards being played are Leech and Leader-filled decks, and everything that I just mentioned, they're great cards. You don't care if your opponent plays them usually. Leech is just going to make them even stronger, like the Destroyer and Red Skull and Typhoid. And then if he pulls Doc Ock with Leader, then you're just going to get more cards pulled. most of these are going to be to your advantage. However, with a Zero Nuke deck, the best part about it is the more you grow your collection, the more power you're going to unlock behind the deck. We start out with the best of them in Shuri. Now, naturally, Shuri fits perfectly into this deck. You can play her on turn 4 rather than playing something like Typhoid Mary and lay out the boom of the 30 power Red Skull, in which you can Arnim Zola, or you can go ahead and Taskmaster this for the easiest W of your life. Another upgrade is going to be Luke Cage and Hazmat. Now, this is a great combination for multiple reasons. We start with just Luke Cage. You don't have to have both of them together, as Luke is going to be an essential card to make Typhoid Mary's value skyrocket. Now, what I like to do is play Luke Cage on turn 2, and then if you know they're going to be playing Leader, which if they're playing the new Leech deck, it's pretty obvious, or you just have indications that they have a big zoo-filled deck, or just a deck that's filling the locations with cards, a turn 6 surprise Hazmat is just absolutely lethal. It's a fun combination that you can play early, but I typically like to save it for the later rounds. Now we continue with Venom, who is almost just an essential card in this deck, but I did put him as an optional upgrade. He's great to bail you out of any extremely rare situations where you don't get Zero or Enchantress. You can play Typhoid Mary and Red Skull and then have Venom eat them all up to get rid of those negative effects. And then if you want to be extra cheeky, you can also play Arnim Zola. Now, tons of people like to play Arnim Zola in this deck. I actually prefer to as well. I think it really throws off your opponent in trying to guess what you're doing for turn 6. However, if you have She-Hulk, I probably prefer her over Arnim Zola because She-Hulk, if you skip turn 5, she's 1 cost. Red Skull's 5 cost. It's absolutely disgusting. Lastly, for the upgradable cards, we have 2 Pool 3 cards, and then we've got a couple new ones. For the Pool 3, both Sarah and Psylocke can play a role into this deck. If you play Sarah out, you can get plenty of power plays with multiple options for Zero, Red Skull. You can get some Taskmaster, cheeky options off. But at the same time, Psylocke is fantastic for both Shuri and Typhoid Mary for the early play. Playing them on turn 3 gives you a massive power swing. However, Pool 4 is where things really shine. Now, Atuma is arguably a must-have card. If you pulled him, you've got to include him into this deck. He's 4 cost, 10 power, and you don't have to worry about his ability because Zero is going to cancel that out. Absolutely love Atuma, and if you do have him as well, you can combine him into a Destroyer kind of hybrid deck. At the same time, Absorbing Man, if you guys have him as well, is going to work, as you can copy Venom, copy Taskmaster. There's a few other situational options where I think he can really come in clutch, but again, he's not a must-have, but truly a nice addition. Let's now move on to the decks, and let's start with my top tier option. Let's go to the Meta Zero Nuke deck, and this is the one that you're going to see me play a lot of example battles with, because at the same time, this is the one I climbed with myself. In the deck, you've got Zero, you have Luke Cage. Now, my main option actually doesn't have Hazmat in the deck. I use Luke Cage for locations, for Lizard, and then also for Typhoid Mary. We have Venom and Enchantress as our backup plans and insurance policies. Obviously, Maximus and Shuri for what we've said before. We've got the Taskmaster, Doc Ock, and Red Skull options as our 5-cost cards. And then as the 6-cost card, I like to have Arnim Zola or She-Hulk, just depending on the day, but both work fantastic. She-Hulk is an obvious option because you can simply counter a lot that's going on. And then at the same time, if they play Wave, you can then have your own 1-2 combo. However, Arnim Zola, the opponent doesn't expect either. Both of them, very strong options. Now, with the new deck graphics, you guys can see the cards that I have noted as replaceable. And I wanted to give you guys as many options as possible, again, because so many of these are from Pool 3. In fact, you can replace the majority of the options in this deck. America Chavez is a perfect 6-cost card, as most of the cards you need are going to be below 6 cost. Atuma, like we talked about earlier. We've got the Hazmat combo if you happen to pull Luke Cage. Titania or Ebony Maw can be played into this deck. And at the same time, Swordmaster and Hellcow are both kind of early options to play in there instead of Maximus. They're just great value for the cost that they have, and you can plug them in certainly to get that Zero option. And then lastly, the Destroyer, Psylocke, Sarah, and Absorbing Man can all fit and slide in here as well. Again, that is easily my favorite deck that I play with when it comes to Zero, but there are so many cards to truly make that one work. Let's try to build an easier early pool 3 deck. Again, that's tough with the options, but if you want to try to play this early on, you can get Zero from the token shop, and then you can play a bunch of different options. You can have Sunspot out there for an early 1-cost card, Ebony Maw, Armor, Cosmo to kind of have a pseudo-destroyer deck. Enchantress and Bucky Barnes are going to slot in there nicely as well, just in case you get the destroyer without Zero. And then we've got cards like Hobgoblin, Red Skull, and Taskmaster. Now, Red Skull and Taskmaster are the harder cards to come by, but truly, you can run a little bit of a destroyer hybrid combo with this early pool 3 deck. As far as replacements go for the deck, we have Warpath that slots in there perfectly. Colossus, hell, even Rescue can be played into this deck. You could play Hobgoblin or even Red Skull on top of her. Typhoid Mary, Shuri, Wave, all these options. If you have in pool 3, you might as well plug in there. I like Wave because you can get the early destroyer out there, and then you Taskmaster that destroyer. Great for some early power if you don't have the other cards unlocked. And then lastly, we've got Professor X and Infinite. You can pair Infinite with Sunspot, and Professor X will block off a destroyer lane. Now for the last deck, we've got a Zero Venom Miracle deck. If you're used to a Sarah Miracle, this is going to work in a very similar way. We've got ourselves a pretty crazy one. One where you can go ahead and Venom on one turn and Taskmaster in the exact same turn, and the entire deck is built for that. And we're going to have cards that you are used to seeing in Miracle decks. With the inclusion of Zero, we've got Angela, Carnage, Lizard, Mysterio. At the same time, Bishop is going to be very useful for that Mysterio option. Other 3-cost cards are Maximus and Venom. You can see down below, I actually have Silver Surfer as a replacement option because of the load of 3-cost cards in this deck. And then we have Typhoid Mary, Red Skull, Sarah, and Taskmaster. Now, again, the core strategy is playing cards like Typhoid Mary. If you play Sarah next, you can then Venom over that and then Taskmaster the total power. Very great, and it works with several different win conditions. Now, other than the Silver Surfer, you can always plug in Deathlock, Polaris, Killmonger, and Nova. Hell, you can plug in Death and copy that with Taskmaster as well. You could throw in Rogue for a tech card, Goblin for disruption, or Swordmaster for some cheap Zero options. All right, so continuing on, we've got ourselves our very much late game opening hands, and we're going against Prudent Hamburger. Okay, gotta love it. The names I play, I tell you, people. So we're not going to do much on the first couple turns of play. No big deal. We can move through that. And we've got ourselves some locations that are going to help. Titan's fantastic with She-Hulk. It allows us to play her very early, which we're probably going to do right now. We've got Mirror Dimension. This is already a time where I'm going to snap. We're going to put the pressure on him very early on. And we've got cards like Arnim Zola and a huge Shuri play with the Enchantress we could play in the later turns. I'll be curious to see if he sticks around. Right now, he can play assortment of different decks. It kind of looks like a somewhat Sarah Miracle to me, but we'll have to see. And he gets the advantage of the Luke Bar. He did change Titan, which is going to now have us not play our Arnim Zola right away. But we look pretty good. We look pretty good. We have 2 locations that are essentially dead, as I don't think he has any no ability cards under his belt either. Let's look at the options, folks. We could bounce Shuri back out of Luke's Bar. It doesn't really do much for us. I think we're going to continue to build on our left side with She-Hulk, and we're going to go ahead and play a huge option into this flooded storm lane. If I were to guess, when we lay down our like 20 option, or hell, let's make it 30, he's gonna bail out. Taskmaster would be the obvious, like, just perfect ending to this deck. Let's see what he's got. Got the Star-Lord. Cosmo. Fantastic. Great for you. There's a 30 bomb. I would assume this is when he backs out. Maybe he stays. Not sure, but that's what I'm talking about. Just some great, huge Shuri bombs. That's where Shuri really takes this deck to the next level, guys. And it's pretty crazy. So we've got a few things we can do. Arnim Zola, obviously left side. If we pull Shuri, like, that's a bummer, right? Because the 2 ain't going to do much there. And it doesn't add to us. So I think we really just focus on doing more power. But like we thought, he's out of here. Absolutely perfect. Just 3 cards and he is gone. It's such a cool feeling, man, to not play a lot of cards and they all just have like this ridiculous amount of power. Okay, so now we are going to throw in a little Ebony Maw into the action here, guys. As we go into our second round of play, we're playing Cake here, and just, I don't know what it is. Every time I see a Cyclops, I just feel like I'm playing a bot, right? I mean, time will tell here in just a moment. Time will tell, but I just feel like it. Yondu gets rid of Taskmaster. A little bit of a bummer, especially because we do have Sherry, but maybe we end up getting ourselves our Arnim Zola, and we can kind of play off that either way. All right, so here we go. He is playing double into Throne Room on turn 2, so nothing crazy. Has me think we're playing a Cerebro 2 deck, maybe? Out the gate, maybe we're playing Destroy. So let's go ahead. We're going to play Maximus right side. Now, Maximus on Throne Room would be pretty solid, but I like him on Asgard. It's kind of like a wash regardless. And we got a Deadpool deck. Okay. Deadpool deck, a little bit of Venom action. We'll see if he can build that Deadpool up fast enough. Guy's got a 16 Venom out the gate because of Throne Room. Not bad, my guy. Not bad. Let's go ahead and play Sherry right side. We can copy at this point Typhoid Mary. And then we can start doing kind of our Arnim Zola action if we'd like to do that. Because we've got Luke Cage as well. So we have a few options that we could roll with this next play. But I think obviously the perfect option here, if you look at the deck tracker, we've got Red Skull. Doc Ock would be sick. And too bad Ebony Maw can't be played. That's one reason why I kind of leave him out of the deck. Currently, I have other cards to fill. But with Asgard, we got what we were looking for. And now we can have some fun. Now, in a perfect world, I would play Doc Ock left side, get the 20, which would be 40, pull all these cards in, and then we could Arnim Zola that. If we didn't get rid of our Taskmaster, this would be the game winner right here. But unfortunately, then we could end up copying Lizard, right? So let's go with the safer play, okay? We're going to play our Doc Ock middle lane. We guessed right. He didn't play middle lane. And we're about to have some fun because we're going to be pulling 3 cards. Now, one of them will be his Deadpool. But whatever we pull doesn't really matter because we're getting the hell out of this lane more than likely. Let's see what we got. We got his Death, Deadpool, Bucky Barnes. Awesome, bro. Great, right? 23 power. But that's why I love this play. It's so freaking ridiculous. Then we throw an Arnim. Now, if you look at his hand, he does have 2 cards. So he could have other plays. But this was really what he was hoping for. And for him to beat 40 power over here extra and the 20, like this is why this combination is so filthy. I'm gonna actually snap. I think he's out of here. I don't think he'll commit the cubes, but let's see. Because the Bucky play with the Deadpool, like we locked him in. We forced his hand. And there's so many decks like this, like discard decks would suffer so much from an early Doc Ock tech. Doc Ock's really climbing my list as far as a tech card. He commits. He goes Shang-Chi. Did he think we couldn't spread ourselves, maybe? All right, let's see who we pull here. No way we pull something too good. Oh, and we take down his only card left. If he would have played Shang-Chi or Carnage, I guess, we would have pulled a Shang-Chi and it would have killed our octopus. Maybe would have been something there, but there you go. We got a 40 Doc Ock on the left. Beautiful sight. And a 20 on the right. Gotta love it. And I mean, check out this variant, man. It's up there as one of my favorites. Next to this Ebony Maw one. I happen to have some really cool variants for the Zero build. I'm actually pretty thrilled I get to play them. Because they don't... A lot of these cards, I mean, Enchantress does. But a lot of these cards don't get to be played in other decks. So... there you go. Great example of all the multiple win conditions in the deck. Okay, here we go. Here we go. We've got ourselves our Doc Ock deck that we're going to try to... if we can get the cards, I would love to do a Sherry Doc Ock Arnim scramble. But, you know, we have to get the right pulls here. And we've got the game to do it as Limbo is our second location. We've got the double L's and we've got some decent combos as we head into our second turn. So let's go and play Luke Cage. I'll challenge what he did on the left side. We've got the Sherry card. We do have Typhoid. And we also obviously have Arnim Zola. So we can at least do this double Typhoid action if we don't get the Dock Arc. And best of all, we could even do some more craziness now that we have Zero. So Jotunheim, this is a location that's right up there with Negative Zone. Some of the other ones, friggin' love this location with Luke Cage because I can immediately challenge it. And we're going to win the location most of the time as Luke Cage doesn't give a damn about negative numbers. So he's going with kind of like a move deck feel here with Iceman. Kind of interesting blend of cards. And how cool is that, man? How cool is that? I love Luke Cage. What a fun card. What a fun card. All right, so we've got our Zero play, and we can now go either Typhoid or Maximus. Because we have Luke Cage, we don't really need to do Typhoid, so I think I'm going to go into our Maximus play. And by playing Maximus on the right side, I think we all but seal up that we can win that with Jotunheim, so I'm not too worried about that. He's moving Craven and Multiple Man already, and that seals that lane. So this guy is just already having a bad day as far as move decks go. Because we only need to do 11 on the left side to win. So this is going to be the easiest game of our life, people. So we've got some options we can play. We can go Shuri into Red Skull middle, and then Arnim Zola him into 2 locations for the funsies. We can also go Shuri, Red Skull, Taskmaster. Either way works, and, you know, we're going to have fun with it either way. We'll throw Shuri left side. You know, we'll see if he retreats, and the Cloak kind of bailed him out there. So he got something working for him as he plays Cloak now in the middle. With that Multiple Man just getting absolutely decimated on Jotunheim. Frost Giants just having their way with that guy. But we've got to go. We've got to go with the 30 power Red Skull. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. At this point, we can Arnim Zola this Red Skull, or we could play the Taskmaster play. And, you know, with move deck, love move decks, but unfortunately, there's just going to be no way he can keep up with the power of what we've got. I expect this to maybe be a Heimdall. All right, he's going Vision. And we've got Red Skull, so good luck with that. All right, so let's say he Heimdalls. He'll be moving at least 1 card over. It's just not a big deal. Just not a big deal. User's choice, right? Heads or tails. We can go Arnim Zola, kick 30 on each of these. I think it's a bit overkill. Or we just go with the simple copy. I think the safest play, they're both safe. I think just Taskmastering this Red Skull here is going to give us 30 and call it and be all we need to do. Somehow he could maybe match this power here in the middle. But either way, he's going to retreat. So we could have had 30 on the left, 30 in the middle, 30 on the left or right. Kind of why I like playing both Taskmaster and Arnim Zola. And both those cards happen to be perfect for Mr. Negative too. So who knows? Maybe one day we'll work him into not this build because of the power, but in some type of build with Shuri would be fun. Because she takes advantage of that as well. So that's a fun one, and that kind of shows off Luke Cage and how he works outside of just the Typhoid Mary. And then you got the big boy like we've had on the game before. Truly, like, single-handedly, Red Skull's going to win a ton of your games. Let's move and groove. We got the combos we're looking for with the Shirtless Wonder. Luke Cage looking absolutely freaking yoked in hazmat. A fun story, I actually met the actor from the MCU at Comic-Con of Luke Cage. Like, he was just walking the floor. The guy is... he can't hide, man. It's a big boy. Big boy. But, all right, cool. So we're going into our next turn. Turn 2. Plenty of low-cost options. Pretty rare for this deck. And let's set up our Luke Cage Hazmat combo. I like to play Hazmat towards the last round. Because people, they just don't expect that massive swing. However, we're going against a destroyed deck, and I would assume that this guy is probably most likely going to not have a ton of cards. So our Hazmat won't be as big of a deal. Let's go ahead. Let's give him the cards. I'm okay with that. He's going Yondu. He kills Lizard. We'll live. And on to turn 4. Lightning fast through these rounds, guys. Going very quickly here. Turn 4, we've got Enchantress, Hazmat, and Zero. Definitely, I think the play here, even though he's going to destroy this might be where we throw out Hazmat, then Zero. If we throw out Hazmat now, great. Then we go Zero, played into Red Skull, Taskmaster the Red Skull, probably the option. I think that's what I'm going to do. This is, I mean, let's Sadly, we're revealing first, so we're not going to get as much of that. We're really only getting rid of that Yondu synergy a bit, right? He's waving now. Interesting to play the early wave, but okay. And now we're looking fresh. Now we're looking good. Now we're looking really good. I think I want to go Red Skull on the right side. And then what we can do is we can either play Omega Red because we're up 10 and he doesn't even try to contend that. That spreads 4 more across the way. Or we've got Taskmaster to copy that 15. He's going right side too. He plays Galactus. It's a bit of a bummer for him. Bit of a bummer for him. I think we won. Let's say he even has death here. Okay, that's 12. What is he going to add on to that that could possibly win? He can't play Destroyer. That would get rid of his Galactus. All we have to do is play Taskmaster for the 30 play overall. And that's GG. I think if I snap, he's out of here. Let's send it. Full send. And you know what? I'll tell you. I don't know if I was like assuming Galactus, but I'm glad that we played that Taskmaster right side. Either way for the Omega Red. He's going to try to outbeat us. If he has a Shang-Chi, he would, I guess, win, but I don't think he does. The KNULL! Yo, this is the first time I win against KNULL. How was I? How did I? What did I? Damn. I mean, I'm keeping that. We got to keep that battle. We got to keep that battle. GG. That was an 8-cube loss. Woof. That's awesome, though. Good on him. I calculated every card that I could, and KNULL was not one of them. So there you have it. There is the Zero Nuke deck and the Zero Archetype. I hope you guys enjoyed today's deck guide. I know a lot of you guys may not have the cards yet, but hopefully, just like some of the other decks, this inspires you to go ahead and start building towards this. Maybe this is a play style you really enjoy, and you can always come back and learn the strategy once you have the cards. If you like today's format on today's video and you enjoyed all the graphics, let me know by liking today's video. It helps me out massively as a creator to show that support and boost the all-time YouTube algorithm. If you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. If you watch the videos, join the Marvel Snap community. And as always, guys, we will see you on the next video. And until then, happy snapping.